This is From Hero to Zero, a show about the misconception of the demise of the music industry. We talk to heroes to make sense of the alleged zero, the music business. Hi Pär, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm very good.
Very good.
Happy to be here.
Well, happy to have you here. Thank you for coming to Switzerland.
Well, excellent to be here. I spent most of the day now out walking here in Zurich. I'm happy to see the city in summertime. Usually we come here in wintertime.
Oh, very good. So, what do you like better, summertime or wintertime here?
Well, a couple of years ago I spent kind of Christmas here over in Zurich, and that was lovely. It was a good Christmas, a lot of snow, and that was lovely, but now I see it's more beautiful in the summer, I think.
So please come back again in the summer.
Yeah, but it's not usually like that because we often tour in the winter times. In the summer we play festivals and then we just stop and leave and fly in, fly out and stuff like that. So we don't really have so much time.
I understand. Well, but still, you're always welcome, of course.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so let's start our interview then. Pär, you've founded Sabaton, Swedish metal band, in 1999. Where do you see the difference between being a musician today, 2016, and many years back, 1999?
Do you find me as a musician? How do I see myself?
Yes, of course, your personal opinion.
I thought, when I founded the band, I thought that was not nearly as it seemed later. I thought everything was much easier to organize, to set up, and I thought as long as you get a record deal, everything's gonna be solved, and then people will take care of us and they will do things like that. As we go along, I realized that is not the fact, and as we go along, I realized that the more and more stuff you have to do yourself. So in the beginning, I was just playing the bass guitar. After a while, I was the accountant, the tour manager, the pyrotechnician, the truck driver, the bus driver. I was the mechanic. I was the guy who called and booked the gigs. I was the record label. I was, turning out. It's been crystallized now as I'm the kind of the manager, but I do not longer control these or do all of that, because now there are people who are much better that can do it for us. But I'm still somewhere involved in every little piece of thing going on with Sabaton. And I realized over the years that it's way more. I mean, I thought, okay, to be a heavy metal musician, it's a lot about playing and rehearsing and stuff like that. I think my time spent with the band, I'm somewhere between 1% and 2% of my time is actually spent playing music.
Interesting. So would you say for any kind of band, it is important to know what's going on the business side of things?
Yes, I say definitely that. I mean, you don't need to do everything, but you have to understand it. Otherwise, you will be screwed.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Sadly. And even not screwed by purpose. Because there's a lot of people who pretend they know things. And they think they know things, but they do not. So you have to be able to see through that and be able to ask questions. Is this really true? I mean, is it really working like that? Because over the years, you find a lot of people who think that they actually know how things work. But it's a complicated world. And nobody knows everything, that's for sure.
Sure. How did you learn to do all those kind of things? Do you go to school, like classical way? Did you read books? Or how did you learn that?
No. You learn by thinking. You question things. You think about things. You have this is what I want to do, and we need to find a solution how to get there. And you ask somebody, they come with something, and then you think, no, maybe not. Maybe only half of what that person said is correct. I need to question the other half. And by taking in things like that, because there's no manual. And there's nobody who knows all the answers. So you have to find them.
Interesting, very interesting. So the band started in 1999. Today, we're in 2016. We know that the business changed over the business model in the music industry changed. In 1999, Napster and all those platforms were not that big, but we saw them coming. How did you experience it as a musician?
You know, I think we came in the right timing for this, because we came in a time when we were interested in that too. I was a lot into computers before starting the band, so I was following the development of the internet and stuff like that. And at the age of 13, I was building servers and connecting them to internet and writing my own software for that. And that was the way, that was that time. And a couple of years later, then internet started to provide like, oh, you can actually download some music here. I found it very interesting, even though at that time I was buying tons of CDs all the time and stuff, but it was still exciting to see what you could do with it. So I was following the scene very closely, and we never felt, Sabaton was never a big band before this whole thing changed the music scene. So we have only seen the possibilities of using this, and we have used it. So while we have a lot of colleagues who have lost sales and do no longer see their hundreds of thousands or millions of sales that they had in the past, we never had that. So every album for us is better and better. So I've seen the change, I've been part of it, and I find it very exciting. There is no way to change it. I think the most stupidest of all things was the people who tried to fought against it, instead of evolving towards it. Because if you see that this could be seen as one of the biggest revolutions that ever happened on the world, you have billions of people who want something, and then you have only very, very few who try to stand against it, try to prevent people from getting what they want. And since when do that happen? You need superior a lot if you want to be just a few people who try to control billions, you know? It's not gonna work. So I think that a lot of labels and a lot of managers and a lot of people, they were too old. If they would have been growing up in the times, seeing things, being part of this thing as we were, the music industry would have adapted much quicker and learned a way to earn money from it. Because there should be.
Very interesting, very interesting. Before the whole internet revolution, people had to buy an album or maybe a single, which was of course published by the label or the band. Nowadays, they can just buy one single song.
Yeah.
Sabaton is known for having concept albums where everything is together, which
kind of goes...
Exactly.
It's not so smart these days.
But somehow it works.
Yeah.
So what's the secret ingredient? How do you make it work? Why do you think it works?
I think it has a lot to create an interest in the listener, to make them want to have more than just one song. You have to have passion about it. You have to deliver it in a nice way where people can enjoy not just a song on the radio or a song on wherever, but they can also see, touch, hold, nice artwork that connects, that creates something. I want to hear what's on this. I want to read what says there. So that should be one point where maybe why Sabaton sells still CDs, vinyls and stuff like that. Because I think we create an interest. But of course, I mean, seeing the development of music and stuff that it goes towards, that a lot of people just take bits of pieces. I don't like that song, so I'm not gonna pay for that. I take this, and then I'm happy and make my playlists and stuff. It's not so smart to make concept albums, but maybe we are just doing it because we love it too. And
I can
sometimes you love stupid things, right? And sometimes it will not always be the smartest move. But you know, if you could fall in love with this instead of that, then you would go for the highest educated, whatever you could find, and you'd be settled for good. But then this part comes in, and then you end up with somebody else.
Of course. Well, and if one does it with passion, like Sabaton does it, I think the fans can actually see that. And as you mentioned, the packaging, it looks good. You actually try to put as much relevant and good content in your physical product as well, no?
Oh yeah, and create exciting editions and stuff like that. So,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
of course.
And another point which I found very interesting, you've worked with, I want to get the name right, Peter Tägtgren,
Correct.
producer, over many albums, which seems to be a successful relationship.
Yeah.
Which is also a very rare thing nowadays in the business world in general. How is it to work with Peter? Like The Last Stand, your new album, again with Peter.
You know, we started to make the first album in kind of his studio. It was his big brother's studio. And the first recording there was done in 2000. And that was with his big brother, who don't have the same experience, but he's still a good guy. And we worked with him for the first few albums. And Peter came in like an advisor, saying, hey guys, why don't you think about doing like this? And giving some small tips. And then when we were doing the Art of War in 2008, Peter said, this is actually, you are really good guys. I really want to put my knowledge into creating something better out of this. So can you please let me mix this album? We let him mix it. And it worked fine. The next one we said, okay, maybe we should do a whole album with you, Peter. And he said, yeah, I would love to do that. But then he was on tour with his bands, Hypocrisy and Pain, and he didn't really have the time to do it. But with Carolus Rex in 2012, we came back, and then he had the full reserved time for just doing this. And this is now our third album with Peter. And every time we raise the bars. It's very easy to work with him. First of all, we live close to each other. We live only 45 minutes away from each other. We grew up having him as a local hero, you know. It was legendary because some bands recorded in his studio. You're like, oh, what if we ever can go there? It's gonna be awesome. We've grown together very tightly, and it's so easy when we come there. We don't have any pressure anymore. He does, because we don't need to worry about, you know, what the album's gonna be like. I mean, we come with the songs. That's it. Okay, we're gonna do the best we can, and if these are the best songs we ever written, time will tell. Because it's also it's an individual thing. If a song is good or not, kind of a bit individual. So while some people would say, oh, it's your best album, some other person would say, no, it's not your best. But you can't really argue about the quality of the sound. It's best or it's not best.
Sure.
It's more easier. And that's where Peter have to step up. So he has to challenge himself and like, I have to do something which is better than the best thing I've ever done. Good luck. So he is stressed.
Cool.
He's a bit stressed.
Well, but you did a great job with The Last Stand. So congrats to that for sure. I watched an interview with you and Joachim in Japan. I don't know if you remember, I think it was with HMV Japan or something like that. Anyhow, you mentioned that you actively try to have all ages shows, because many countries, they have shows that are 18 plus, but you want all ages shows. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Why is that? And how do you do that?
I started to think about this, this is 10 years ago actually, 2006. When we played the first show together with Lorde, they just won the Eurovision Song Contest, and I watched their crowd. And I watched how stupid their management was at that time, because they didn't realize what privilege they had. They thought that, damn it, this is just young kids in the crowd. Where are the true metal people? And I was thinking, these are the true metal people in 10 years, if you catch them. Because they had a very young crowd. And they didn't follow, and they didn't do the right thing to bind them. We were opening for Lorde at this time, and we got the kids. And anybody would remember their first show if it's the first time they go to a heavy metal concert. And they remembered Sabaton. And a lot of these fans are now our fans. They didn't stay for Lordi because they didn't really understand that they had 13-year-olds in their crowd. So they started very late in the evening and their kids had to go home for school the day after. So they did a mistake from their management, which was probably pretty fatal because it's going to take a long time to work before they ever get the opportunity to play for 13-year-olds again. But we took the opportunity. And since then, I realized that, okay, this is what we should do. We will always lose fans. Every day we will lose some fans. Some people, they get married, they die, they start listening to something else, they get deaf. You know, there's plenty of reasons why we lose fans every single day. But as long as we grow new ones, and we don't really grow new ones out of the 70-year-olds, because they are not really the most, you know, future-proof ones, so to say at least. But the kids are. So, and it's really nice to just push down all the time. And while other bands, a lot of other bands, they play in their clubs where they get more paid because it's beer served for 18 age limits and stuff like that. I said no to that. No, we play in all ages places. If there is no beer, then there is no beer. If the people don't want to come for the music, then they can stay outside and drink beer somewhere else. But we've packed all those venues anyway, over time, and now we have a fan base which you can, in those countries where we made this possible, a couple of those, where we really push down. There are some countries which is so stupid. England is almost impossible to deal with like that, and America is really complicated too. But we were able to do this in Germany in several places, and in Belgium, and also in Sweden and Finland and Norway and stuff. So we have a very, very young crowd there, and that's looking bright for the future.
Definitely. Well, Pat, it was very interesting. Thanks so much. All the best with The Last Stand, and have a good show.
For sure, we will.